Joe Biden was publicly humiliated last night by his own party, although it played like close to midnight, so hardly anybody ever saw it. But we're going to show it to you. You're going to see it. It's delightful. Also, we've got highlights of his speech. It's the lies. All what happened there? Should we do that again, Kevin?
Yeah, take it from the top.
Let's do that again. It's just to prove that we're live and unscripted. Last night, Joe Biden was publicly humiliated by his own party, by his friends. Most of it happened after midnight, but we'll show you the highlights, and you're going to love it because, you know, couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. We've also got highlights of the speech itself, well, the lies, and there were a lot of them, and we'll fact check them because the fact checkers aren't fact checking. Also, what else happened last night? Oh, today, actually, this is disgusting. It's nauseating. It's horrible. The governor of Kentucky openly fantasizing this morning on MSNBC about JD Vance's daughter getting raped. I wish I was joking right now, but that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what he said, and you're going to see all of it coming up right now. I'm Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry. Good morning, good afternoon, and thank you for watching the live stream. It's high noon on the East Coast, and we are live streaming across Rumble and YouTube and X and Facebook, and also you'll see us later on all those platforms. And if you're watching, if you're liking, if you're enjoying, we ask one small favor. Like this video, comment, and also subscribe if you could. Subscribe with alerts because, you know, sometimes we start 5 minutes late. Sometimes we're right on time. Sometimes, who knows? And if you don't have those alerts going, you might miss us. Good morning to you, Strawberry Blonde. Hey, Ricky, love you right back. Although not in any sort of, you know, LGBTQ way. Not that there's necessarily anything wrong with that. I don't want to go there. The point is, love you too, brother. Let's get right to it. You know we don't like Joe Biden here, and I know supposedly he's politically irrelevant. We don't care about Joe Biden. We already defeated Joe Biden. Good. But the humiliation can't get stronger for this man because he has been a nasty, mean-spirited, divisive blowhard his entire political career. Ask the family of Robert Bork what he did to them. Ask Clarence Thomas and his lovely wife, Ginny. Ask anybody. Ask Mitt Romney, who in 2012, Joe Biden said he was going to put black people back in chains. Joe Biden is an awful, lying scumbag. And last night, oh, it was glorious to watch as he was scheduled for his primetime speech. He's going to say goodbye to his party and to the American people at the beginning of the DNC. And the primetime speech didn't start until 11:30 at night. Nobody saw this thing. I'm surprised Joe was able to stay up for it. Watch how the gang at Fox and Friends described the scene this morning.
Can you give us that clip, Larry?
Oh, see what I need to do? Look at, we're both just insane this morning because we're so excited to get to these clips. Fox and Friends earlier this morning.
Here's the thing. The reason it ran so late, according to the organizers, was because of the raucous applause.
Yep.
I got news for you.
No.
When you're putting together something, you plan on, you build in applause. They pushed him out of primetime.
Unless they were planning a wake.
They did not want him to be on in primetime.
100%.
He wanted, whoever they are, at the DNC, the same people who shoved him aside, they wanted him only seen in little clips this morning, the day after, as we talk a little bit about it, Lawrence, and they're going to get exactly what they want. They put him on at 11:28, which is when they normally run sitcoms, old sitcoms on syndication. That's where they put Joe Biden. His swan song, essentially, past prime time.
A lot of people thought they were going to watch I Love Lucy.
That's right. I Love Lucy, although that would have been, you know, sort of in keeping with Joe Biden because he's about as old as the first. Actually, he's older than the first episodes of I Love Lucy. Now, of course, he was, you know, right in prime time out there on the West Coast because they really want to shore up the vote in California, Oregon, and Washington, apparently. Michigan, though, yeah, you don't matter. Pennsylvania, no. Seeing Joe Biden is not a priority for Kamala Harris. And they keep saying they, the DNC. And I'm glad that Mr. Ducey there stopped himself and said, who's they? I'll tell you who they is. Kamala Harris is they. Kamala Harris and Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and the powers that be and the financing, the funding, the money behind it all. Poor Jill Biden. Remember, she was running the White House up until a month ago. And then she was there trying to set Joe up for his great triumphant exit stage left, very far left. And she told a whopper of a whopper.
And weeks ago, when I saw him dig deep into his soul and decide to no longer seek re-election and endorse Kamala Harris.
Now, hold on. Is that exactly what she saw a few weeks ago? Did she see Joe Biden dig deep in his soul and contemplate it? You know, 48 hours before he put out that bizarre written statement on X that he wasn't going to be running for president, he was still defiantly shaking his fist at you and saying, these smart guys think they can get rid of me. Well, hell no, they can't get rid of. Well, what happened? Did he really dig deep? What was it again, Jill?
And weeks ago, when I saw him dig deep into his soul.
No, what you saw is Nancy Pelosi dig a knife deep into his back. That's what you saw, Jill. This was sad. This was humiliating. This was depressing. No one should have to endure what they made him endure. It's awesome because he's a jerk. And I'm happy to see him humiliated like this. But it's humiliation nonetheless. Also, what did she say here? Is she saying, and help me out, because I'm not being disingenuous. Sometimes I pretend like I can't understand what they're saying, but truly, and Kevin, maybe you can help me with this. Is she saying 10 weeks ago? Listen again.
And weeks ago.
Oh, maybe she's saying when weeks ago. When weeks ago?
I think it's and.
And weeks ago?
And weeks ago, when I saw.
All right, weeks ago. He dug deep. He dug deep and pulled that knife out of his back that Nancy Pelosi jammed in and twisted. And then Kamala Harris made a surprise appearance so that she could also pile on the humiliation because nobody believes anything these people are saying. She put one of the extra nails in the coffin for Joe Biden.
And I want to kick us off by celebrating our incredible president, Joe Biden, who will be speaking later tonight. Joe, thank you for your historic leadership, for your lifetime of service to our nation.
So this made it into prime time. This is when everybody's watching. This you get to see. Joe himself, it's going to be way too late, especially for all you blue-collar workers that they're trying to appeal to. They don't want you to see anything having to do with Joe Biden. That's why he's not the nominee anymore. This makes it to prime time, where instead of actually talking to Joe Biden like a normal human being, this person is shouting into the camera across the hall and hoping that Joe is sitting in the green room backstage, catching it 3 hours before they actually let him hobble onto the stage and rant his final speech. These people are awful, although they're being awful to Joe Biden, and he's awful in his own right. So again, it all sort of balances out. So let me go back here because I love the fact that this is what made it into prime time, not Joe himself. They love Joe so much and they honor him so much that they want to make sure that they use all of the hours in prime time showing themselves praising him and honoring him. But then what he has to say, no, you don't need to see that. Move on.
Kick us off by celebrating our incredible president, Joe Biden, who will be speaking later tonight. Joe, thank you for your historic leadership, for your lifetime of service to our nation, and for all you will continue to do. We are forever grateful to you.
Yeah, they are so forever grateful to him. Then Chris Coons, his fellow senator from Delaware, they served together in the Senate. And of course, it's Delaware. It's a very small and corrupt community out there amongst Democrat elected officials. Chris Coons was the chairman of the Biden campaign before it became the Harris campaign. And he wasn't told, by the way, by Joe Biden himself. He wasn't told that he was going to step down as the nominee, but they're very close. They're very good friends. And Chris Coons was trotted out there to deliver the most awkward, unorganic, unnatural, scripted, and forced convention chant you will ever see in your life. Say it with me, everyone. We love Joe. Really, we do. Watch how naturally this develops in the hall.
Thank you, Joe, and God bless you. We love you. We love Joe. We love Joe. We love Joe. We love Joe. Thank you all. We love Joe. God bless you, and thank you very much.
Wow. That listen to the room. Yeah. That was the raucous, organic, naturally inspired, spontaneous "We Love Joe" chant that died after about 7 seconds, and then it was just deathly silent in the room. I think CNN was staying on the wide shot here, expecting the cascades of "We Love Joe" to just ripple through the United Center. That never really happened, did it? And also, I don't know if you caught this or not, but there was one moment of very, very natural, genuine realness that occurred during the chant. Did you see it? Let's watch it. This is the "We Love Joe" chant. It's fast, but I'm going to play it on a loop so we can watch it together.
Joe.
There it is. Watch your face. Watch your eyes. We love Joe. Really? We love Joe. We really doing this? We love Joe. Where's Kamala? We love Joe. He's just an old white racist. We love Joe. Please get the camera off me. We love Joe. Nobody believes this. I love that woman. Love that woman. Boom. She speaks for all of us, honestly. And frankly, she speaks for everyone in that room, for that matter. That's actually not even the most awkward moment as they chanted "We Love Joe." Little later, they trotted out signs that said "We Love Joe." That's how forced this was. That's how forced this was. You know, nothing says "we love a guy" as much as forcing people to chant "we love a guy" while they're holding up signs that say "we love this guy." And you know who loves him more than anyone else? Nancy Pelosi. I mean, just look at that face. It's all about the love. Oh, and the joy. I forgot about joy. This is all about joy, too. The love and the joy. They're joyful with their love for Joe. Watch Nancy chant her "We Love Joe," because you know how much she loves him. Mount Rushmore, greatest president we've ever had.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, she loves him. I mean, that's the face of true love. That is just, she is reflecting the love of Jesus Christ to all of humanity right there with that radiant smile. That absolutely, she loves him. Look at, she's even moving her little sign there. There, nothing but contempt. Oh, all the love we were feeling last night. Does that woman look guilty to you? Does she look like she's up to something? Does she look like she needs to go to confession? Oh, please. That's going to be a long marathon. If you have to go to confession and you see Nancy Pelosi in line ahead of you, just find another parish. Because it's going to be a while. All right. So later in the evening, we had a Kamala Harris spokesperson show up on Fox News. And I'm glad they do, because it's nice to have them actually be challenged with some questions. And because he's not used to actually be challenged with anything, he let something slip here. The question has to do with the relationship between Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden. And remember, the story up until now that Nancy Pelosi has been telling anyone who will ask, and many people have asked, is that Joe Biden came to his decision on his own and she didn't put any pressure on him, right? That's been the message up until now. So Bill Hemmer merely asks, what's the relationship now between Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi? Listen carefully.
Haven't spoken to Nancy at all. She was in the front row last night. They haven't talked?
Well, I can't speak to any of the decisions that they made or any conversations that they may or may not have had.
Wait. What now? All he asked was, have they spoken? And I think he let something slip there. Well, I can't speak to any decisions that they made. I mean, there were no decisions. He made the decision. He came to it on his own. She had nothing to do with those decisions. Where's Rachel Maddow? Where's Rachel Maddow? I need my safe space. Really simple question, dude. Have they had any conversations? Well, no, I can't tell you anything about any decisions they made.
To Nancy at all. She was in the front row last night. They haven't talked?
Well, I can't speak to any of the decisions that they made or any conversations that they may or may not.
Clean up, please. Please clean up this mess on aisle 3. Scott Jennings, of course, over on CNN, cuts through all of the bull, and he tells it like it is. And he's in his prime right now as the sole voice of reason over there on Jake Tapper's cable news network. He said it like it is. He saw this humiliation, this embarrassing public display last night for Joe Biden. How ruthless we knew they were ruthless. They pushed Joe Biden out. They threatened him. They handpicked Kamala Harris, put her in place without any due process, without any voting. Now they're acting like, oh, look at what a unified party we are. Yeah, it's pretty easy to be unified when no one's allowed to vote on anything. You know, there's something about authoritarian rule that really brings out unity in a group like these Democrats. So we know they're ruthless already, but then to publicly humiliate Joe Biden this way and put him through this public spectacle is just, it's pouring salt on the wound. It's urinating on the grave. We love Joe. Really, we do. So Scott Jennings sort of shines a light on it there on CNN, if anyone's watching.
This is his moment tonight. It's his moment, yeah.
Yeah, Biden is known in his career as being one of the best eulogy givers at funerals. And now they're making him come and give his own career.
He has files of every eulogy.
Yeah, and now they're making him give his own eulogy at this convention.
You have to give one. It's best that you get to give your own.
Yeah, I guess. I am anxious to see how they handle it. It's a sticky wicket. He was bullied out of this race after 52 years of service to the Democratic Party. And it wasn't all about his age. He was unpopular. He was going to lose. It was Afghanistan. It was inflation. It was immigration. And now, and he had to be dragged out by the fingernails. I'm sorry. This is not, so he's not here in a happy moment. Okay. I know that this yarn that's being spun in this hall that he was popular and selfless and handing on. No. It is the opposite. And everybody knows it. And yet the Democrats are engaging in this theater of looking into cameras and saying it. So it's not true.
Yeah. One other thing I want to point out here, if I could, during this segment where you saw Scott Jennings is terrific and good for him. He is getting pulled out while he's trying to cling on by his fingernails. And the fact that he has to give his own public eulogy, that's a great line. But one other thing here that I want to point out, just look in the lower right-hand corner. You can see right at the CNN logo there. See what time it is? That's 8:11 p.m. That's right there in the wheelhouse of primetime television, right? Everybody's tuning in at 8:11. That's what where they're having this conversation about Joe Biden's speech that they're highly anticipating. Think about this for a minute. These guys had to wait 3 hours and 19 minutes after this conversation before the speech actually began on the stage at the Democratic National Convention. That's how bound and determined the Democrats, Kamala Harris, Barack Obama, the orchestrators, the big money funders who are paying for this entire coup attempt that we're watching develop before our eyes. That's how desperate they were to make sure you didn't see Joe Biden. And why? Well, let's give you a little sampling of Joe Biden's speech because I know you didn't see it. So I'll give you a little sampling so you can see exactly what happened on the stage last night. And then maybe you'll understand why they wanted to make sure he was on very, very late when all those swing voters in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania were off to bed. Here's Joe in his final public political speech.
In its decision overturning Roe v. Wade that you heard earlier tonight, the United States Supreme Court majority wrote the following, quote, women are not without electoral or political power. No kidding. MAGA Republicans found out the power of women in 2022. And Donald Trump is going to find out the power of women in 2024.
All right, so there you go. Women are not without electrical power in 2024. And yes, Donald Trump, MAGA Republicans found out the power that women have at the ballot box in 2022. Well, we also found out the power the presidency has when he can release thousands and thousands of gallons of petroleum from the petroleum reserve, less artificially driving down the cost of gas to fake his way through a recovery and then leave us all completely exposed. But, you know, he's Joe Biden. What do you want? That's what the speech was like. Joe Biden battling with the teleprompter once again. It's a sad, pathetic way for him to exit the stage. And, well, it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy because he is a sad, pathetic, divisive, angry, mean-spirited dinosaur of a politician from a different racist era. Good riddance. In these crazy times, there is peace of mind in security, right? You want security. That's one thing that we all crave. Security for our country, security for our leaders, security for our families. But think about this. You're not financially secure if all your eggs are in one basket. So I want to tell you about gold and silver. Gold and silver are excellent ways to diversify your savings. They're a hedge against inflation. They're a physical asset that's in high demand globally from the wealthy to central banks. And, well, just do a quick search on how the prices for gold and silver are right now, and you'll see that the demand is very real. So my friends at Birch Gold Group have a great idea for you, because for a lot of investors, for a lot of people who are trying to secure their retirement, they feel like gold and silver is inaccessible. It's something for those other guys. No. See, you can own physical gold and silver right now in a tax-sheltered retirement account. You can diversify an old IRA or 401k that you've already got for no money out of pocket into an IRA in gold and silver. It's one thing you can do to secure your savings. So why don't you get more information about this? It's free. I would think you would want more information so you can make an intelligent and educated choice, right? All right, here's how you get that free information. Text my name, Larry, Larry, to 989898. You're going to get a free, no obligation info kit, and you'll learn the role precious metals play in your overall saving strategies. Again, text Larry, 989898. By the way, A+ rating with Better Business Bureau, thousands of happy customers. You can trust Birch Gold like I do. Text Larry, 989898. Thanks. Earlier this morning on Morning Joe, Governor Beshear of Kentucky made an appearance, and he was there to slam and slime JD Vance and the Republicans and Trump, and you, for that matter, especially if you're pro-choice. Andy Beshear, by the way, was on the short list, we were told, for Kamala Harris's vice presidential choices. And, well, he fits right in with the mean-spirited, divisive Biden-Harris-Obama style of politics. Watch what he had to say this morning on Morning Joe.
I mean, think about what some people have had to go through because of these laws. I mean, JD Vance calls pregnancy resulting from rape inconvenient. Like, inconvenience is traffic. I mean, it is. Make him go through this. I mean, think about.
Hold on. Make him go through this? And by this, by the way, you just heard, is a pregnancy as a result of a rape. And he says, make him go through this. Now, of course, I'm not a Democrat, but I'm pretty sure that JD Vance can't get pregnant. Although Democrats these days, you never know where they stand on things like that. They're the party of science. But one must assume that Governor Beshear means make him go through this, means he wants a member of his family to go through this, either his wife or his daughter, to go through this, to get pregnant as a result of rape. Let's watch it again.
What some people have had to go through because of these laws. JD Vance calls pregnancy resulting from rape inconvenient. Like, inconvenience is traffic. I mean, make him go through this.
I do love it in moments like this when they're not scripted, where they reveal exactly who they are. It could very well be one of the most despicable, hateful, divisive, and mean-spirited things a politician can ever say about somebody publicly in polite company on a platform like a morning show. Hey, good morning, everyone. Enjoy your Cheerios. Let's talk about JD Vance's wife getting raped. This is how low they're stooping now. And we're only in August. And this is what they're stooping to. Lest anybody think that we're quoting Governor Beshear out of context, I want you to hear it one more time, and then we'll move on to the reactions, the appropriate reactions to such a despicable, disgusting thing to say.
I mean, think about what some people have had to go through because of these laws. JD Vance calls pregnancy resulting from rape inconvenient. Like, inconvenience is traffic. I mean, make him go through this.
Now, first of all, I hear something like this, and I just assume they're lying about JD Vance. I'm not sure what language he used about a pregnancy being inconvenient. I will tell you this, that statistics, reports, and just common sense verifies that the vast majority of abortions, pregnancy terminations, killing of unborn human beings in this country over the last 50 years have been because those pregnancies were, in fact, inconvenient. Not as a result of a sexual assault or a rape or incest, the extremes that the pro-abortion enthusiasts will always point to. No. It's women getting pregnant in the old-fashioned way and then deciding that that pregnancy is, in fact, inconvenient. That's just a fact. That's just the truth. Not because their lives are in danger, not because they were sexually assaulted. No. Because the pregnancy is inconvenient. Now, I don't know if JD Vance said specifically that a pregnancy due to rape is inconvenient, but my assumption, based on this piece of garbage saying it, is that he never said that. By the way, I also happen to know, because this issue is very important to me, that JD Vance specifically makes exceptions for abortion having to do with sexual assault and rape. Now, I actually don't necessarily agree with JD Vance on that, but where I stand on abortion is irrelevant to you because I'm not an elected official. But it is relevant that Governor Beshear would lie so blatantly about JD Vance and his position, isn't it? By the way, I was very excited for Mika Brzezinski, a very knowledgeable and educated television host on MSNBC, owned by Comcast Universal, to immediately then fact-check Governor Beshear in the way that I just fact-checked him. Let's watch that clip together, shall we? Oh, no, we can't. That never happened. Mika Brzezinski would never. You see, because this is all they have. All they have is fear-mongering to the most extreme in this country and lying about what the Republican platform is and what they would do if they come into power. Donald Trump, by the way, which I disagree with, but Donald Trump has specifically said that he would not sign any kind of national federal abortion ban. He wants the states to decide this. Everybody knows that, but it's not stopping them from lying, especially a despicable, disgusting, mean-spirited, divisive lie like this. JD Vance saw the clip. He responded to it on social media, X to be specific. He says, "What the hell is this? Why is Andy Beshear of Kentucky wishing that a member of my family would get raped? What a disgusting person." And that is, in fact, the only appropriate response to such a disgusting thing to say. But this is who they are. The one thing that we want to bear in mind, though, is that Andy Beshear, representing the Harris-Walz ticket here at the DNC, when he says this, he's really really just bringing joy back into politics. This statement from Andy Beshear is really just embracing the whole new mode of joyful American politics brought to us by Kamala Harris and Tim Walz.
I mean, think about what some people have had to go through because of these laws. JD Vance calls pregnancy resulting from rape inconvenient. Like, inconvenience is traffic. I mean, make him go through this.
Are you feeling the joy? I know I do. By the way, apparently, Andy Beshear has been called out of this. Happened, well, you can see 7:48 Eastern time is when this happened. And just 20 minutes ago, he was called out on MSNBC about that statement. He appeared on MSNBC. Here it is. This is breaking. This is developing. Like, this happened after the show began, this show. So yeah, this is 12:17 Eastern. So that means this was what now?
15 minutes ago?
10 minutes ago. He comes back on MSNBC. Now everybody's tuning in and watching this. Kevin, I'm guessing you're monitoring this while we do the show, right? And everyone assumes, okay, he's coming on. He's going to walk this back. He's going to apologize. Oh, I spoke off the top of my head. That was wrong. We're bringing the joy here in Chicago. We shouldn't stoop to these levels. That's what the MAGA Republicans do, not us. We don't wish rape on somebody's family. Okay, let's see Andy Beshear walk this back, shall we?
Said this morning on Morning Joe. Okay. I'm going to just prepare you for this. Saying that let me take a look at what he said about you.
By the way, I love that. This is beautiful. I'm going to react in real time if I could, Kevin. So first, Andrea Mitchell says, here's what you said on Morning Joe, and get ready. I want to prepare you for this. Why do you have to prepare him for what he said? You're not going to believe what you said this morning. But then they immediately go to JD Vance's response, what we just showed you, which I think is hilarious. It's not what you said. It's what JD Vance said about you. He called you disgusting. Can you believe that? All you did was wish rape on a family member of his. But the real problem is JD Vance calling you disgusting. All right. So first, Andrea Mitchell needs to prepare Andy Beshear for his own words. And then they even disregard that and go right to Vance. All right, here, we'll continue now.
JD Vance calls pregnancy resulting from rape inconvenient. Like, inconvenience is traffic. I mean, make him go through this.
So what he's saying is that you were somehow suggesting, he said, what the hell is this? Why is Andy Beshear, he tweeted this out, wishing that a member of my family would get raped? What a disgusting person. So how do you respond to that? I mean, is that what you were talking about?
Of course not. It's ridiculous, but it's also deflection. I mean, JD Vance knows that he and Donald Trump are so wrong on this issue, and so he's trying to make himself the victim. Listen, Hadley Duvall was a victim. The women that were on the stage last night, the couple that had to go through a non-viable pregnancy are victims. You know, as a man, JD Vance will never have to face any of this personally, but it's sad that he lacks the empathy to be able to put himself in a different position and to understand why having exceptions, having reproductive freedom is so important in the first place. Obviously, I'd never wish harm on anyone. And it just, again, deflection, trying to make himself and Donald Trump the victims.
Wait, okay, so there's no apology here, and there's no real explanation either. So if you didn't wish a pregnancy as a result of a rape on JD Vance's family member, did you wish it upon JD Vance? Are you one of those Democrats who believe that a man can get pregnant? Did you explain? I mean, other than him pointing out that they're the party of empathy, he forgot joy. Was there any actual explanation that made any sense in any of that? And I'm glad we got it on the fly for you and we were able to show it to you. But let's just remind you once again, this is Andy Beshear, governor of Kentucky, showing empathy, I guess, and joy.
I mean, think about what some people have had to go through because of these laws. JD Vance calls pregnancy resulting from rape inconvenient. Like inconvenience is traffic. I mean, it is. Make him go through this.
Make him go through this. All right. Well, let's get a little bit more here about Andy Beshear, because he seems like a really clean-cut guy. Doesn't he look like Town Hall's Guy Benson in a way, right? He's got the, traditional 1980s country club haircut going, and he's got the, open collar shirt with the Oxford button down. I mean, he's a nice-looking guy. He's very mild-mannered. He seems like a really pleasant person to be around. So let's take a look at a few other comments that Andy Beshear has been making and see how they match up, right? Because remember, he's all about empathy, sensitivity, and joy. Don't forget the joy.
How we treat people transcends party lines. It goes right to the heart of who we are. My faith teaches me the golden rule that I am to love my neighbor as myself.
Yeah, there you go. See, he's Christian. And he believes in the golden rule, although Tim Walz told me that the golden rule is mind your own damn business. So I'm a little confused about that, but I don't care. Thank God they're embracing their Christian values and their Christian faith and their Christian teachings, like the golden rule. Love your neighbor as yourself. Right, Andy Beshear? How's that golden rule working out for you?
JD Vance calls pregnancy resulting from rape inconvenient. Like inconvenience is traffic. I mean, it is. Make him go through this.
Thank you to our friend Western Lensman for putting that compilation together. Well, what else did he have to say last night at the convention as he was displaying the empathy and the love and the joy and the golden rule and love for his neighbor? What else did he say?
JD Vance says women should stay in violent marriages and that pregnancies resulting from rape are simply inconvenient.
Again, I don't believe the pregnancy caused by rape is inconvenient quote that they're giving us. But what's that first one again?
JD Vance says women should stay in violent marriages and that pregnancy.
JD Vance says women should stay in violent marriages. Would you like to know what JD Vance really said? I bet you would. And again, we didn't have any fact checking going on cable news last night, so I feel like I need to do it. JD Vance has lamented the fact that we have such a rampant divorce culture in America. And regardless of the reason for the divorce, the children always suffer. And data and science, and again, common sense bears that out. See, it's terrible for a woman to be in a violent marriage, and I wouldn't want a woman to stay in a violent marriage, and neither does JD Vance want a woman to stay in a violent marriage. But it is important to point out that the children in that marriage, in that family, despite the fact that it's horrific that their mother is dealing with violence and domestic abuse, the children are going to suffer because of that divorce. And we as a society, culturally, we should probably try to do something about that, shouldn't we? Shouldn't we address it? Shouldn't we talk about it? Shouldn't we try to repair it? Shouldn't we? I don't want to display my lack of empathy, and I'm certainly trying to keep as much joy going as possible. Kind of like Andy Beshear. But there's something really bizarre going on with the Democrats right now with regard to these issues. See, it's all they've got. All they can do is lie about these personal issues. So they're trying to convince suburban women who are already a little iffy about Donald Trump, right, to vote for them because they're going to make sure that your daughters can kill unwanted pregnancies. But there's more to it than that. The lies are actually getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Remember this guy, Tim Walz? I mean, he's got a lot of lies in his closet. We've been uncovering them ever since he was announced as the running mate. The National Guard lies, the COVID lies, through the pandemic, on and on and on. But now he's got a brand new one. And this adds to the lies they're trying to tell about you. They're trying to tell you that Donald Trump and JD Vance and MAGA Republicans are going to make in vitro fertilization illegal. Now, Donald Trump has actually gone out of his way to ensure that the federal government stays out of IVF. Again, personally, not a big fan of that policy of Donald Trump's, but I'm a mature grown-up and I can deal with that when I'm voting for people, and I don't have to lie about it. Tim Walz, on the other hand, he wants to scare everybody about in vitro fertilization. And he needs to scare you so much that he's going to lie about it. Not just about Donald Trump's position, but about his own personal connection to the issue. Because apparently, Tim Walz's children were conceived via in vitro fertilization. Yeah, I didn't know that either, but here he is saying it himself.
Yeah, first of all, it was up to him. I wouldn't have a family because of IVF and the things that we need to do reproductive. My kids were born through that that way. And also, I make sure that I'm the guys and our folks are investing in prenatal care. We're the ones that are there for universal pre-K. We're the ones that are providing school meals at this. I'm not going to back down one bit on this whole family values thing, and it's us. That construct that he's putting out there is absolutely untrue. We're making it more affordable to have children by having paid family and medical leave so that you can go home when your kids are sick and take care of them. Or if you're a dad, I don't have to go right back to work 5 days later after my wife had a C-section because our insurance wouldn't pay for it. We're boosting those things up. There's nothing pro-family other than having women be incubators for their vision of this. And I don't know. Once again, it's weird. I don't want JD Vance talking about my family. I certainly don't want him talking about my daughter or my wife. It's none of his damn business. But I said the one thing is we need to talk about how we've invested in families. We have the most generous child tax credit, and it's what Vice President Harris is proposing for the country, that people are poor because they don't have money. And when kids don't have the money on the front end, all of the things that a chain reaction of can't learn, can't go on. So I'll challenge him on that. Where is JD Vance's pro-family? He's forcing people to have, not be able to have medical care if they have a bad pregnancy or something. We need to stand in front of that. And again, you don't need me to give a sermon, but try and live one. Try and be decent. Try and help your neighbors. Try and invest in those kids.
What an odious liar this man is. And I do love it. I do love it when they vomit out policies like this. This is the beauty of being a Democrat. See, conservatives, Republicans, we like to talk about higher principles and getting the government out of your lives and allowing you to be unchained by regulations and onerous taxes so that you can achieve the American dream by pursuing whatever path you want to take, because it's up to you, not for the government to force you to do anything. But see, that it's a little high-minded, it's a little altruistic, and it's hard to articulate sometimes if you're just, a politician or an elected official. But when you're a Democrat, man, all you got to do is just vomit all of these policies out. We got this tax credit, and we got that tax credit, and we're going to make this affordable, and we're going to provide this for free, and we're going to provide that for free. And my favorite one in all of it was poor people are poor because they don't have money. That's some really amazing knowledge that Tim Walz has. What a revelation. But did you catch the very beginning of it? This is the most important part of it, as he's lying about JD Vance and Donald Trump trying to get in the way of you utilizing in vitro fertilization, IVF. Did you hear what he said?
First of all, it was up to him. I wouldn't have a family because of IVF and the things that we need to do reproductive. My kids were born through that that way.
My kids were born through that way. If it were up to him, I wouldn't have a family because my kids were born with IVF. Now, that's not the first time he said it. We've got a couple of other examples of him saying it.
Today's IVF day. Thank God for IVF. My wife and I have 2 beautiful children. He thinks he needs to dictate that. And I've been saying this, the golden rule that makes small towns work so we're not at each other's throats all the time in a little town is mind your own damn business. I don't need him to tell me about my family. I don't need to tell him about my wife's health care and her reproductive rights. I don't need him telling my children what books they can read. He's fired to do that with whatever he wants, but I'm not interested in it. And I think rural America is, they are angry.
Now, he wants rural America angry, by the way. He exudes anger. He is just a simmering pot boiling over with anger and rage, you can tell. And he's going to use the government to satisfy that rage. But you heard it again, and I apologize. I know it's tedious to hear him just repeat the same talking points that he rehearses in front of his bathroom mirror every night before he goes to bed over and over again. But it's instructive to see that he's staying on message. I got my kids through IVF. In vitro fertilization, it's my family. He's making this personal about him and his children. How dare you, sir? How dare you? These are my children you're talking about, right? Doesn't get more passionate than that because he's America's dad. And again, I want to reiterate that JD Vance and Donald Trump are not in any way whatsoever proposing legislation at the federal level that would infringe on anybody's right to have in vitro fertilization. But that's not stopping him from lying about it. But the most important part is he's lying about his own children. Here he is doing it again.
Look,
That includes IVF. And this gets personal for me and my family. When my wife and I decided to have children, we spent years going through infertility treatments. And I remember praying every night for a call for good news. The pit in my stomach when the phone rang, and the agony when we heard that the treatments hadn't worked. So it wasn't by chance that when we welcomed our daughter into the world, we named her Hope. When Vice President and I talk about freedom, we mean the freedom to make your own healthcare decisions.
All right. Now, that entire very gut-wrenching and tear-jerking statement was framed around the setup of IVF, right? His children.
Look, that includes IVF.
Right? That whole thing. So there's three different occasions. And well, to complete the set, we've got a fourth one too. We're hitting for the cycle here at a rally in Glendale last week.
When we wanted to have children, we went through years of fertility treatment. And I remember it was like it was yesterday, just waiting for good news. And then the phone would ring and you would be tensed up. And then you would hear that the treatments had failed. It would blot out the sun that you just wanted something so beautiful and so simple to have a child. And then one day, and it wasn't by chance, when that news came and we welcomed our daughter into the world, we named her Hope. We named her Hope. I'm not crying, you're crying. So
He is such a weird dude. Pretending to cry. I'm not crying, you're crying. All about his daughter, Hope, born because of IVF. If JD Vance and Donald Trump had their way, Hope wouldn't exist today because they're going to ban IVF. You see what this is all about? It's reproductive freedom. Except the New York Times has an article today about this. Welch family fertility journey ran not through IVF, but another common treatment, a fertility treatment, not IVF, had nothing to do with IVF. As Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota has introduced himself to Americans through stump speeches across the country in recent weeks, he has alluded to a journey through infertility for his family while warning that conservatives want to restrict in vitro fertilization. No, he hasn't alluded to it. It's been specifically stated. Let me just remind you, New York Times, there's no illusion here.
today's IVF day. Thank God for IVF. My wife and I have two beautiful children.
That's not an illusion. That's a deliberate statement. New York Times, an illusion? Let's see that illusion again.
Yeah, first of all, it was up to him. I wouldn't have a family because of IVF and the things that we need to do reproductive. My kids were born through that that way.
Did he just allude to IVF as being the mechanism under which his children were born? Was that an illusion, New York Times? Or was that a direct, flat statement? No, but the New York Times is going to give as much grace as possible catching Tim Walz in another lie, and this time about his own children. How low do you have to go? That you're lying about the conception of your actual child to score political points framed in a lie against your political opponent. Oh, the joy that they're bringing to politics. Are you feeling the joy? More from the New York Times. Many have assumed that his family relied on IVF to conceive their two children. Why? Why would we assume that? Maybe because he said it multiple times. How dare you jump to that assumption? You're making an ass out of you and me. Several news outlets, including the New York Times, Associated Press, and the Minnesota Star Tribune, have reported that the family relied on in vitro fertilization. You know why they reported on it? Because they reported on what Tim Walz said. Fertility advocates concluded as much after hearing Mr. Walz talk. In April, Tim Walz for Governor campaign office mailed out a fundraising letter in an envelope that read, "My wife and I used IVF to start a family." I don't know why people assumed that he used IVF to start a family, except for his campaign putting out a mailer that said, "My family My wife and I used IVF to start a family. When asked if the Waltzes wanted to share more details about their effort to conceive, the Harris-Waltz campaign recently clarified that the couple did not rely on IVF, but rather another common fertility procedure called intrauterine insemination, or IUI. Tim Walz lying again about himself, about his wife, about his children, about the conception of his children, and lying so that he can further a lie that he's telling about Donald Trump, JD Vance, and IVF. And to make it personal. I'm not crying, you're crying. Now, last night, Joe Biden's speech, which happened really late in the evening, was full of lies. And I mean a ton of lies. And somehow the fact checkers missed them all. So we want to give you a good review of the misrepresentations, lies, and just outright damnable absurdities that Joe Biden tried to inflict on the audience at the United Center and whoever else was still awake watching on television. And it's a good reminder of exactly why he lost the presidential election to Donald Trump in July instead of the old-fashioned way in November. First, though, a really heartwarming moment. His own daughter, Ashley Biden, introduced him on stage. And I want you to see it because it's a really, really tender, heartwarming moment. The love of a daughter and her father here. Because, you know, the Biden family, they're just an all-American family. And so here's Ashley Biden with the intro.
I have this memory. It's the eve of my 8th birthday.
Wait. No, let's not. Ashley, get her off the stage. We know how this story ends. We read the book. We are not interested in hearing that story. What is she thinking? Did they not vet this ahead of time? Oh, thank God it was on at midnight. Woo! Dang. All right, that was a close one. Now that Ashley's done and off the stage, let's get to Joe Biden. We'll start with this lie.
When the president was asked what he thought had happened, Donald Trump said, and I quote, "There are very fine people on both sides. My God." That's what he said.
Of course, that's not what he said. And even Snopes, as you can see in the cutout there, has fact-checked this as false. He's talking about Nazis and white supremacists in Charlottesville. And Joe Biden just maintained to the audience who believes it, of course, because they bought into this lie. They're so far in that they can't retreat, that he said of neo-Nazis and white supremacists that they are very fine people. When, of course, Donald Trump literally, specifically said the opposite. He said, I'm not talking about neo-Nazis and white nationalists. But this is who Joe Biden is. And the lies aren't working anymore. They've stopped working. Kamala Harris will probably keep repeating this lie over and over again. They can't stop. But that's what happened last night. The first of many lies.
That is what he said and what he meant. That's when I realized, had listened to the admonition of my dead son, I could not stay in the sidelines. So I ran.
He has been telling that lie since the day he ran for office in 2019. In fact, the announcement video was all about Charlottesville and all about the very fine people on both sides. Think about it. His entire political career and this entire presidency and the campaign and decision to run for the presidency was based on a lie, was based on a complete and total fraudulent lie. But he wasn't done. He also repeated this lie.
He's promising a bloodbath if he loses, in his words. He's promising a bloodbath if he loses, in his words.
Now, you're a viewer of this program, so you already know that he didn't promise a bloodbath if he loses. What he did was say that Wall Street would undergo a bloodbath if he loses. That's what he said. Hey, Kevin, can you get me the link to the suckers and losers lie, please? Because that did not make it into the rundown.
Yes, please hold.
Thank you very much. Donald Trump did not promise a bloodbath. He predicted an economic bloodbath. Bloodbath is a term that's used all the time in financial circles. We know that. It's been debunked widely for months now. But you see, when you're Joe Biden, and any Democrat really, you can repeat the same lies over and over again with impunity, and nobody's going to do anything and nobody's going to say anything. You know you can get away with it. He's got the media in his back pocket, and that includes the fact checkers. So he just keeps lying and lying. Here's one more.
Then I had to take executive action. The result of the executive action I took, border encounters have dropped over 50%. In fact, there are fewer border crossings today than when Donald Trump left office. Then I had to take executive action.
That is also a lie. Every fact checker that dares to take a look at the data will tell you that no, there are not fewer border crossings than before Donald Trump left office. In fact, it's still astronomical. But again, he'll lie and he'll continue to lie, and that's what he does. All right, back to the aforementioned suckers and losers lie. I mean, there's so many of these lies that they keep repeating. But Joe Biden went there last night, so let's get to it.
He called them suckers and losers. Who in the hell does he think he is? Who does he think he is?
Oh, are you feeling the joy with the shaking of the fist and the screaming? This, of course, is the damnable lie put forth by Jeffrey Goldberg of The Atlantic that Donald Trump referred to people in a military cemetery as suckers and losers. And Joe Biden repeats this one all the time, too, right after he talks about how his uncle was eaten by cannibals during World War II. Have they fact-checked that one yet? Let's watch Joe Biden get exercised about this again, because I have a theory about this one.
He called them suckers and losers. Who in the hell does he think he is? Who does he think he is?
He gets more worked up about this one than any of the other lies that he tells about Donald Trump. And I've got a theory about that. You see, Joe Biden didn't serve. And in fact, he joined the political party that opposed the Vietnam War when he decided that he was going to run for office in the late 60s, early 70s. He had a choice, and he chose to be a Democrat. That was the party that opposed the civil rights legislation of the mid-60s. Oh, I know Lyndon Johnson signed it, but it wouldn't have passed without a vast number of Republicans supporting it in the Senate and in the House. It was the Democrats who opposed the civil rights bill, and Joe Biden proactively decided that he wanted to join that party. He also joined the party that opposed the Vietnam War, even though it was the same party that escalated the Vietnam War under the aforementioned President Lyndon Johnson. But he joined the party that was known in 1970 and 1972 as the party of violent anti-military protests. Remember, they're the ones who were spitting on veterans when they came back from Vietnam. That's the party Joe Biden proactively joined when he decided to enter public life. That's the party who never showed any respect for our troops. And of course, since he never served, he didn't care. He didn't care until he realized that the tide had turned in America after the election of Ronald Reagan, and he brought back pride to our military and our armed services. That's when he convinced his son that if he really wanted to have a political career, his son should join the military. So late in his life, well, not late in his life, but not at your normal age that you would join the military, Beau Biden, already a lawyer, joined the reserves and became a JAG lawyer. He was a lawyer in Iraq during the war on terror. And of course, you know, he died prematurely of brain cancer as the Attorney General of Delaware. And I think Joe Biden somehow still connects his service in Iraq with his death. In fact, he says as much whenever he has the opportunity. He tries to pretend that he's a Gold Star father and that he lost his son in the war, because whenever he meets people who have, in fact, lost their sons or daughters in war due to some of his horrible decisions, by the way, he'll suddenly bring up his son, Beau, who did not die in war. But he still connects the two, and he brings it up all the time. And I think that he feels so much guilt about this that he reserves most of his anger of Donald Trump and the lies that he tells about them for this suckers and losers lie. That's why when he's supposed to be displaying joy at the convention, he was displaying this rage, white, hot rage with shaking fists and everything. Well, I could debunk the suckers and losers lie for you if you'd like, but I don't need to. Because earlier this month, Donald Trump debunked it himself personally because he's kind of pissed off that Joe Biden keeps repeating it.
And he makes up stories. He said something about me that I stood over the graves of soldiers. Nobody loves the military more than me. Nobody. Nobody respects it. And nobody's treated it better. Nobody's done as much for the military as I have. But he said I stood over graves of soldiers. And I said, these people are suckers and losers. Think dead soldiers from World War I. I said, this was a made-up deal from a magazine that's failing, Financial Disaster, by a guy that is a horrible radical left lunatic named Goldberg. They made up a story that I said this, and they put it out, and it's been going around for 3 years. And it's just like Russia, 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 Ukraine, 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 51 intelligence agents, that phony story, remember? The laptop is from Russia, they said. And they should be prosecuted for what they did. Okay, they should be prosecuted. Let's see what happens.
I do like that part. They should be prosecuted. Were they talking about the 51 intelligence officials who claimed the Hunter Biden laptop, lied about the Hunter Biden laptop and said that it was Russian disinformation? He said they should be prosecuted. And then he says, let's see what happens. I like that. Yeah, by the way, just to cut to the chase on the suckers and losers things, John Bolton, former national security advisor, who is a virulent anti-Trump person. He is, in fact, I don't know if he's endorsed Nikki Haley, or he did endorse Nikki Haley. I don't think he's endorsed Kamala Harris, but he's certainly not going to vote for Donald Trump. John Bolton is one of the most outspoken, never Trump people in Washington, D.C. But when this is supposed to have happened, this suckers and losers thing, John Bolton was Donald Trump's national security advisor. He was on Air Force One with him when this decision was made not to visit a World War I cemetery. He was party to the conversations. He heard all of it, and he said it never happened. He said it never happened. And frankly, John Bolton has every reason to lie about Donald Trump. So we've got the Charlottesville very fine people lie last night in Joe Biden's speech. We've got the bloodbath lie last night in Joe Biden's speech. We've got the suckers and losers lie last night in Joe Biden's speech. Oh, we've got the border crossings lie last night in Joe Biden's speech. And there's more.
And Americans are safer today than under Donald Trump. Trump continues to lie about crime in America.
America is safer today than it was under Donald Trump. Violent crime is way up in America. And they keep throwing out this lie that violent crime is going down. But what they don't tell you is major American cities are not reporting their crime statistics to the FBI. And so the FBI is just estimating what the crime. Do you know that the FBI crime statistics that these people are quoting right now to convince you that violent crime is down does not include violent crime in New York City? Think about that for a minute. If you were to make a list of the cities that you had to gather violent crime statistics from so that you could get a good picture of violent crime in America, would New York be number one on the list or number one on the list? And yet the FBI statistics that you're hearing about all the time when they brag that violent crime is down literally has no data from New York. So lies, 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 lies. You want another lie? Oh, this is my favorite lie of them all.
Well, during the pandemic, Kamala and I helped states and cities get back their schools back open.
During the pandemic, it was Kamala and Joe Biden who got schools open. Actually, during the 2020 election cycle in September and October, Betsy DeVos, as Secretary of Education with President Trump, was imploring states and school systems to open again that fall. They were begging them to open. It was Democrats and Democrat governors in particular who refused to open the schools. And the teachers union, the #1 funder of the Democratic Party and the Biden campaign apparatus that stood in the way of schools being open. Even after he was elected, they stood in the way of schools being open. His CDC was taking memos from Randy Weingarten, the president of the second largest teachers union, asking her for guidance on when schools should open or not. And he dares this? Are you kidding me?
During the pandemic, Kamala and I helped states and cities get back their schools back open.
You didn't help Florida open because Florida was already open, because they didn't listen to you. And a whole handful of other states led by Republicans. In fact, only states led by Republicans were still open. You want more lies? We've got more lies. This may be the best last night.
Including the IBEW installing 500,000 charging stations all across America.
Now, that was a twofer because he mentioned the IBEW, that's the International Brotherhood of Electric Workers, because they were all part of the whole Green New Deal thing. You ask yourself, why are union guys, blue-collar guys who like their F-150s, why are they on board with the Green New Deal? Jobs. That's why. They don't care. So the International Brotherhood of Electric Workers were the ones who were lined up with the Green New Deal, which, by the way, isn't the Green New Deal. I thought it was the Inflation Reduction Act, except it actually increased inflation. So now they're going back and calling it a climate change bill. They were the ones who were on board to get all of those jobs that were lined up to install 500,000 new charging stations around the country. Yeah, and it was only going to cost $7.5 billion. But boy, all those jobs and all those charging stations, right?
Including the IBEW installing 500,000 charging stations all across America.
Yeah, I believe it's not 500,000. It's a little bit less than that. A bit less. I believe they've got 7 charging stations installed now, which is about $1 billion apiece. That's not bad. I mentioned that none of this got fact-checked at the major cable outlets or the networks. They're Johnny on the spot fact-checking Donald Trump whenever they have the opportunity. But I mentioned this didn't get fact-checked. But that's not entirely true. Daniel Dale, the erstwhile fact-checker over there on CNN, who looks a lot like Pete Buttigieg, by the way. He did jump on board. What time is this? 10 minutes till 1 in the morning. Amazing. They brought him on to do a bit of a fact check. And so when I say none of that got fact checked, I'm being accurate. It's true. None of what I just showed you, all of those damnable lies that are meant specifically to divide this country and to call Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's political opponents racists who hate the military. None of that got fact-checked. But Daniel Dale, he did jump on board with a couple of fact checks. Let's take a look at what he had.
Guess let's start with the president. What did you make of it?
There were certainly some false or misleading claims there, especially on the subject of the economy. I want you to listen to something he said on the subject of U.S. imports and exports.
We used to import products and export jobs. Now we export American products and create American jobs. Right here in America, where jobs belong.
This claim is misleading, Jake. U.S. exports of goods have increased under President Biden. So far, so good with that claim. But contrary to the other part of that claim, we are still importing a whole lot of stuff, too. What he didn't mention is that U.S. imports have increased during his presidency. Increased, not decreased. In fact, increased by more than exports have increased. So therefore, the trade deficit in goods has increased under President Biden, not declined, as this claim suggested. It was over $1 trillion in each of his first 3 years in office. It had never hit that level before. I also want to...
Okay, so Daniel Dale found a lie about the trade imbalance with China. It was misleading, he said. A little misleading. Sure, we've got some more exports, but we're importing even more, so the trade deficit is even bigger. But that's misleading. Well, that would not be misleading. That would be a lie, Daniel. Not misleading, an absolute lie. But then he found one more.
Play something else he said on the subject of the economy and the budget. This is something he said about billionaires and tax rates.
We have 1,000 billionaires in America. You know what their average tax rate they pay? 8.2%. 2%.
I've called this misleading before. It's still misleading. An expert at the Nonpartisan Tax Policy Center has told me this number is, quote, way too low. Now, he said the average federal tax rate for billionaires is 8.2%. What he doesn't explain is that that number is not an actual tax rate. What it is an alternative calculation from economists in his own administration that factors in unrealized capital gains that are not actually treated as taxable income.
Yeah, okay. It's now 12:52 Eastern time, and as everyone is listening to this fact check about the actualized gains on investment and the tax rate that billionaires pay, everyone is now drooling on their pillow, passed out, because all Daniel Dale could find in that entire vitriolic, divisive, fraudulent speech from our angry, vitriolic, fraudulent president was something about the trade imbalance and corporate tax rates. Daniel Dale was fine with the lie about Charlottesville, fine with the lie about suckers and losers, fine with the lie about bloodbath. He was fine with the lie about border crossings. He was fine with the lie about violent crime statistics. He was fine with the lie about 500,000 new charging stations. But boy, you better get the numbers right on the trade imbalance, folks. See? I'm an equal opportunity fact checker. I'm Daniel Dale. Good night, everybody. What a joke. That is it for today, you guys. Thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that alert button so when we go live, you don't always get a lot of notice. Sometimes we set the show up like 5-10 minutes before we're live and boom, you want to know, right? So hit that subscribe button with the alert so you get the notice, and we will see you next time. My name's Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry.